I think there's like a game theory element here too, where fiat currency, it's devolving human relations into more of a zero-sum thing. Because it's like, for me to advance my material interests of worldly things, it now comes at the expense of someone else's livelihood, frankly. Right. So you're encroaching on their ability to have fit body, sound mind, good relationships, spend time with their family. Right. Fiat currency is time theft. Right. You're extracting from someone, whoever the saver is holding that currency, the shareholder of the central bank is actually extracting that from them. And so I would argue, I think central banking is the love of money, right? Almost like the institutionalized love of money, right? There's a whole organization that's putting the worldly gains of its shareholders above the flourishing of the human race that's forced to use the money. So like, it is actually the love of money, and that is why it is an evil institution.
Right.
And you could take it a step further, perhaps. Friedman said, evil is the force that believes its knowledge is complete. And central banking is the central planning of money. It's literally saying, oh no, we don't need the market to set interest rates. We will do that. Right? We are smarter than the market. So it's an organization or institution that believes its knowledge is more complete than what the market can actually discover on its own. And so it's just bound up in evil, I think, in multiple ways that you look at it.
Right. And it ultimately, I guess, to be blunt, not that I have an agenda, but ultimately, not agenda, but my ultimate desire, whether it comes to bear or not, that's fine. You know, if I die tomorrow, if I die later today, that's fine, right? For all we know, Trump could have another assassination attempt that's president. We all die. You know, so someone, you know, maybe China nukes the conference today and takes out America's Bitcoin strategy. Anyway, you know, whatever the case, I don't care what the result is, but my ultimate desire is not for Bitcoin number go up. Ultimately, I want people to understand pricing things in terms of Bitcoin, not dollars. And actually, that's not my desire. My ultimate desire behind that is that not only will people start pricing things in terms of Bitcoin instead of dollars as a unit of account, but they will understand that that grows the pie, that transforms your relationships and those things, right? Mm-hmm. And then my hope beyond that is that they realize what you just said about central banking. Central banking is not the fundamental problem of humanity. The state is not the fundamental problem of humanity. Sin is the fundamental problem of humanity. Being imperfect is the fundamental problem of humanity. You know, depravity. That is the problem with humans. And all the state is, all the central bank is I really like how you put it. It is institutionalized that, right? Yeah. It is institutionalized evil, right?
Does that mean it's ineradicable then? Because sin is not eradicable, I don't think, for humans, right? We're sinful.
Yeah, we're sinful creatures.
Be sinful, so does that mean we're always going to have state and or central bank?
Well, you know, I think this is part of the interesting discussion with the Kennedy and Trump reality now is that, you know, on Twitter, you know, this is part of why I was up all night, you know, just online is reacting like crazy to Kennedy's presentation because, of course, everyone was surprised by Kennedy's desire to buy 4 million Bitcoin, just as much or even more than I was. You know, and a lot of people saying, oh, this is, you know, Bitcoin is pandering to politicians. This is no better than, you know, a demographic based on state, skin color, sex, or college education, whatever, you know, pandering to a politician, right? The Bitcoiners now know better, right? They're, you know, pandering, you know, the U.S. government buying 4 million Bitcoin. You're just funding the state, the war machine, this and that, the other, blah, 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 blah. And I understand that emphasis really well, and that's a fine line. But ultimately, you know, again, that's why behind the number go up, behind the unit of account, behind the understanding that's why I think that distinction is so important, because the real problem is not the state. The real problem is the evil that the state does, right? Mm-hmm. I would rather, like what is better? The United States of America today that is on a fiat standard, or a United States of America 50 years from now with weapons 10 times more destructive and a population 3 times greater. So, you know, theoretically more people that could be, you know, censored or whatever. Mm. But that America is on a Bitcoin standard, and that government does not control the world by printing tokens and distributing them and managing oil and, you know, allowing this starvation and allowing that revolution and putting this person in charge over here and these dictatorships and crushing those democracies. Instead of that, what if we have an America state 50 years from now that's way more powerful both technologically and in global influence, but that state is only powerful in that sense because it has to convince taxpayers to pay the money. I can't force your Bitcoin from you. I have to convince you to
provide
right?
good services.
Right. So anyway, that is probably controversial, but that's a difference I personally have with Bitcoiners. I do think that the state will become increasingly more relevant over time as technology progresses. I think that's probably what's going to happen, but that's a really long time from now. But again, that's just a distinction I'm making, that this whole fix the money, fix the world, I really empathize and understand with the mindset. But in the end of the day, Bitcoin, fix the money, fix the world. What is world? Well, the world that we're referring to is institutionalized fiat theft, right? And I like how you put it, where it's representing that love of money, right? See, this is the thing that I think is ironic about it, is that central banks are not the love of money because there's money involved. It has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with subverting God's authority. The central bank is not the representation of the love of money because they make political currency units. It's a representation of the love of money because it is a person sitting in a chair and saying, let there be light.
Yeah, it's literal fiat.
Right.
Yeah,
fiat by
looks.
decree,
Yeah.
I am the God
So
of
humans playing
your
God.
tokens. Let's print energy out of thin air.
Yeah.
That's why it's the love of money, because the love of money has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with subverting the authority of God and subverting the desire for God over everything else.
Yeah.
So anyway,
No, that's a great point. And people might not know that, but that's where the term fiat comes from, right?
Right.
Fiat lux is I think, Latin for let there be light, right?
Right.
How God decreed everything into existence. So fiat currency, fiat regulation, fiat legislation.
Right.
Like, what is that? That's humans thinking they can just speak things into existence and then impose them by threat on other humans. It's
Right.
like, it's crazy. Children don't allow fiat, right? If
Right.
you come into a game and like they're playing imaginary, and one kid's like, "No, you're the helicopter, and I'm the train."
No,
and it's
I'm
like, no, the
not.
kid's like, "No, I'm the alligator." Like, fuck
Yeah,
off.
shut up.
Yeah, like it's a consensual game of
Right.
imagination that we're playing. You can't force someone to be a thing.
Right.
Yet I don't know. It's become the mainstay of adult reality.
Yeah, well, and see, again, I think this is, I think at first it might seem like semantics to people, but I really think when one separates the state as the fundamental problem to sin as the fundamental problem, I think that opens up a whole different way of looking at Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because then you realize, oh wait, centralization is not bad. It's the sin that's bad, right? Like I mean, even if we look at Bitcoin, oh yes, Bitcoin's decentralized. Yes, that's great. That's wonderful, right? We don't want Bitcoin centralized. That's the whole point. Yes. But what are we doing? We are centralizing our allocation to Bitcoin, right? In the future, we are exiting this ancient world. We are decentralizing and diversifying our assets and purchasing power. And now we are centralizing, right? I mean, you could argue Bitcoin's a movement of decentralization because of nodes and miners and everything. But I think it's equally as valid to say that Bitcoin is a movement of centralization. We are centralizing this diversification into one monetary singularity.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.